Hello, welcome to Legalese. My name is Christopher Lilly, I'm your host. Legalese is presented by the Northern Middlesex Bar Association. It's our intent to bring issues to the public that the public may find of interest. Today's topic is police prosecutors. I'm joined today by Sergeant William Luppold of the Westford Police Department. Sergeant Luppold has served for almost 20 years now as a police officer, and most recently had been a police prosecutor for the last 8 years, has now transitioned back to patrol. Welcome, Bill.
Thank you, Chris. Good to be here.
Bill, you've been a police prosecutor for 8 years. I'm going to miss you going into patrol, not seeing you around the court. But knowing that you were making that transition, I felt today was a good time to perhaps talk about police prosecutors, the role of the police prosecutor, particularly with respect to criminal matters before the district court. Can you start by explaining what is the role of a police prosecutor?
No, the police prosecutor is the liaison between the police department and the court itself. In Westford, we obviously, we use Air District, Lowell Juvenile, any of the superior courts. We have interactions with all the district courts for the most part as needed. And as a police prosecutor in Westford, we have to make sure that the discovery is available, the paperwork is proper and ready to go, all evidence is logged, the officers are scheduled, show up timely, they are well educated as to what they need to do and how they need to testify.
Okay. Let's start with the beginning of a case. So a case can either begin through a complaint or through an arrest followed by a complaint, correct?
Correct.
How would you be involved in either of those cases?
Both of those will start with the arrest. The arrest paperwork is, say the arrest is tonight, and it's faxed up to court. The police prosecutor would come in the morning, he'd review it, make sure everything was okay, make sure the court got it, bring all the paperwork up along with the paperwork the DA needed, copies of the full report, maybe some witness statements, Miranda forms, the like, to aid in the prosecution of that case. As far as a complaint goes, it would be the same thing. The prosecutor would review it, make sure all the elements were there, everything fit, all the I's were dotted and T's were crossed, so to speak, and then bring that up and submit it to the clerk's office to be processed.
So the paperwork that we're talking about, is that primarily the police report? Is there more to it?
Well, there's the police report, there's a statement of fact that just, as you know, has just the basic elements. Then there's the rest of the report with any type of witness statements, anything else the officers might feel relevant to a case. There's also the paperwork of the arrest, the booking sheet, the motor vehicle inventory, the statutory rights, and anything else that the DA might need to prosecute the case. So
as a police prosecutor, you are essentially initiating the charges in the Commonwealth at the district court level against a perpetrator.
Correct.
Or an accused perpetrator, correct?
Correct.
And you would bring that to the clerk's office to begin the paperwork as far as that complaint, correct?
Correct.
And now the DA that we spoke of, the district attorney's office, what is your role versus the district attorney's office, or in conjunction with the district attorney's office?
In conjunction with them, we're very lucky here in Westford that we have a full-time police prosecutor. In some other communities that are small that use their district court, they don't have a full-time police prosecutor. When I did it, I was very lucky that that was what I concentrated on. So they would touch base with me on discovery issues, on scheduling, on where I wanted to go with the case. I would let them know that here's my cell phone number, please feel free to call me anytime before you dismiss a case or plea out a case, because I might know a little more than you do from the involvements that did make it to the court level with an individual. So in that respect, we were very lucky that I was very hands-on with the majority of the cases.
So now as a case goes through district court, you have the pretrial conference, and then you have the trial, or you may have a motion on motions to suppress evidence. To what extent do you get involved in those stages?
I would be in contact with the district attorney's office, and on Wednesdays, as you know, up in Air District Court, most of our pretrials, I would show up on Wednesday, I would go over all my cases to make sure they had everything they needed, or explain to them how I wished it would go. An example would be if the person had plates revoked for insurance and it was a mistake. Some of the insurance companies now online, payments out of your checking account don't go forth. The people don't request a magistrate's hearing, so I'd be like, listen, just so you know, here's a supplemental report. This person came up the next day, got everything squared away, and that would either be dismissed or dismissed on court costs. But with other things, we'd make sure that they went forward and they had the proper paperwork to go that way.
Okay. So obviously our interaction over the course of the last 8 years, you've been very helpful to the defense bar as well, as far as providing information that we may need with the discovery process and that sort of thing. Do you interact with the police officer as far as creating police reports or anything along those lines?
I've always, before I went up to be the police prosecutor, I was a patrol sergeant, which is what I do now again. And I always told the officers that your report should be an outline, that you're able to sustain everything that happened and make your case, fill out the elements. The elements are like a puzzle. You want to be able to fill those. So I've showed them the way I was taught, whereas you have an outline and you work through there and you make sure that everything's in there. So to that respect, yes, they do that. And if they don't do it correctly, we either do a supplemental if it's an arrest because they don't have it. If not, then if it's a complaint, if we can wait another day, then we have them fix it and go from there. But for the most part, our supervisors are pretty attuned to what it takes to get up there. And if not, my phone used to ring a lot to make sure that, I'd have to have a logbook handy to make sure we're all set.
Sure. Now, you mentioned clerk magistrate's hearing. What is a clerk magistrate's hearing?
A clerk magistrate's hearing is, there's two, for any type of civil citation, like a speeding or a stop sign, and also if someone's charged with a misdemeanor, like some kids might be charged with minor possession of alcohol, or someone might be charged with operating to endanger or operating after a suspended license. At a clerk magistrate's hearing, you're going to show probable cause to go forward, and I would represent the Commonwealth to have that case go forward, or sometimes they're resolved at a clerk magistrate's hearing to the point where if the person doesn't have any history, it's a lapse of judgment momentarily. They didn't pay a fine, or as I like to say with the kids, smart kids making dumb decisions. You continue it out for a while. It's like an unofficial probation, and if they do nothing for say 6 months, maybe a little community service, maybe a brains at risk program if we're talking alcohol to educate the young men and women, it would go away and it wouldn't be on the record for the rest of their lives.
So who monitors that when you kick it over for a period of 6 months? That person's not going to probation. The case hasn't started at that
The
point.
court prosecutor does.
So that's another part of your job.
Right, and I would tell people, it's funny you mention that, because I would tell people that, I'm going to be calling, you have 6 months, don't wait till the 11th hour to get this done, because I'm going to be calling you a week or two ahead of time to find out if it has been done, and you need to get that proper paperwork, or it's going to go forward a complaint, and then you're going to be answering for it. As you know, it follows you around forever.
Sure. Now, the clerk magistrate's hearing involves a presentation of facts. You're not, your name goes is on every complaint application, correct? As the police prosecutor. You're the person who shows up at that complaint clerk magistrate stage, correct?
Correct.
So the officer who witnessed all of this, he's not present, or she's not present, correct?
That's correct.
How is that person represented before the clerk magistrate's hearing as far as the presentation of facts?
Through their police report.
And so you read that into evidence?
I do.
And the defendant is theoretically present and can respond, correct? And then you get to the arraignment stage after that, correct?
Correct.
So, okay. Now, as far as, let's jump ahead now to kind of the trial stage or to the hearing stage. To what extent are you involved with officers in scheduling?
We have in Westford, I don't speak for Westford, we have a posted schedule. The DA's office will email me a monthly list of what they have scheduled, who the DA is and what officers they need, and if there's anything outstanding they need. I check it against what I have to make sure the officers are scheduled with their vacation time, their training, their days off. If they're out, we have some officers that are in the National Guard, some officers on paternity leave. So I make sure that we're all set, and I let the officers know if there's a motion. I make sure I get a copy of the motion so the officers can review it. Depending on who the attorney is, from my experience up at the court, I'll be like, hey, you might want to, know your cues for your OUI field sobriety test, because I guarantee you're going to be asked.
Boy, I'd like to hear that conversation.
It goes fairly well. They're very receptive. They're very,
Yeah.
and once again, Westford, we're very fortunate. We have very intelligent officers that really do a great job. I've been kind of spoiled. It wasn't the hardest job ever, other than reviewing a lot of paperwork.
Sure.
And I just make sure that that's going to go forward. And say trials are on Monday and Tuesday, I would email or call the DA on Friday to make sure that the officers are still scheduled for those trials, because as you know, it's fast moving up there. Things happen. The DAs have, I don't know, 800. It seems like 800 cases. I don't know how many they have.
So you're the contact point
I'm the contact.
for the DA as far as all types of scheduling?
Absolutely.
Okay, all right. Now, I'm thinking back to the history of police prosecutors. When I was in law school back in the late 1980s, Massachusetts had a two-tier system where if a person's entitled to a bench trial at the district court stage, and then they can appeal de novo to a jury of 6, which is another form of the district court, but they basically get an opportunity to go before a jury and have the case tried again. You were not part of that system. What's your memory with respect to that system?
My memory of that system is I hear a lot about it, and we have files on, forever, up in the attic. And we had a conversation before that, you pull arrests from like 1974. We have cases out of the attic, and it's actually, on that note, that's kind of amusing, because now you've seen OUI reports.
Sure.
Officers will write a 5-7 page report. They used to write them on like 2 5x7 index cards. That was it for an OUI report.
Yeah.
But I remember I was part-time back in the late 80s into the early 90s, and I remember hearing about it, and I never attended any of it, but I remember officers saying that they would have to testify, and then they'd have to go testify again because you went to Lowell for the jury of 6.
So my memory going back was of a police prosecutor actually trying cases before the district court. That's obviously not the case now.
No, not, when I first started, depending on the DA, they were kind of overwhelmed up there with everything. So we would get up and give recommendations for maybe an operating after suspension, or, I guess it would be the crimes that they have the standard fines for, or maybe recommendations. You recommend to continue without a finding for a certain amount of time if you knew a lot about the case. But as far as getting up and I guess lawyering, if that's what we want to call it, I've never done that, but I know my predecessors have.
Sure. Now, there was more of a prominent speaking part for the police prosecutor way back when, and I had an opportunity to take a look into some of the history of it, and it goes back, I think, to the fact that the district attorney's office is by statute mandated to cover all superior court sessions. Then the statute came down that mandated that they cover all jury sessions. So in the context of this two-tier system, when you had just cases going before a judge for trial, the police prosecutor was able to act as an attorney at that point. Even though there's no legal, there's legal training, I suppose, but they're not attorneys. But they're able to present the facts, and the judge could make the decisions on whether the person's guilty or not guilty. An attorney came and represented the defendant in most cases, and it was certainly interesting. Now that's with the introduction of this jury system throughout the Commonwealth as being your first and frankly only bite at the apple as far as findings of fact, with the exception of appeals, obviously. You, excuse me, you have now the fact that the district attorney's office is really at the forefront and handling everything. Is that fair to say?
That would be fair to say, and the presenting of the facts, like you said, the probable cause, and that's a clerk magistrate's hearing now. That's what we do, all the time. We just do it in front of the clerk magistrate as opposed to the judge. And you've been up there a couple of times. More relaxed atmosphere. You're sitting across the table. It's not all the pomp
Kind of
and
hash
circumstance.
something,
Yeah,
hash
and
some things out.
that's where the rubber meets the road. That's where a lot of stuff gets hashed out because, I said, it's for the most part it's good people that make mistakes. I always wanted to get into this job to help people, and that I helped a lot of people because they, like I said, they made mistakes, and some of it wasn't their own, and some of them deserved a second chance, and others of them unfortunately didn't, and they went in front of the judge, and that's where they ended up.
So now you are no longer a police prosecutor.
I am not.
You are a patrol sergeant.
Correct.
And explain that role. What are you going to be doing now?
Basically what I do is I oversee the patrolmen out on the road. In Westford, we usually have a patrol sergeant who acts as the shift supervisor, and they have a lieutenant on who acts as the officer in charge or shift commander. Usually the lieutenant's in the station, the sergeant's out on the road. The sergeant just patrols around and responds to the major calls, your domestics, your accidents, any type of major incident that you need a supervisor at. Backs the officers up if need be. I myself like to, when the officers go in for their dinner break, I move over to their area so they don't have to be interrupted to go get it. Sometimes, that's not easy. The other night, Monday night, I think we had 3 warrant arrests in 7 minutes.
Oh.
So their boys were a little active.
So the training that you've had or the experience that you've had as a police prosecutor, how is that going to inform your role now as a patrol supervisor?
I think that helps me immensely. Just not only that, but my overall knowledge. I've often said that's one of the best jobs to have in the police department as a police prosecutor because it's like anything else. I see, your reports, I see Officer Smith's reports, Officer Jones' reports, and I can come up with a style that works best for everybody, and what I like most about yours, I might like a little more something else his, and you can mesh it together. So as that, I can help the officers with, this is, that reads okay, but as far as a legal aspect and what you might want to write to paint the picture, this might look a little better, and it's not changing what happened, it's just changing the way they present it.
Okay, all right. Now, who is going to take your place as the police prosecutor?
Sergeant Greg Martian has taken my place. We actually switched. I am now on a split. I work 2 3-11s and 2 day shifts.
Okay.
And now he works days as a police prosecutor.
You think you'll miss the role of police prosecutor?
You know what? I do. I miss it already.
Yeah.
I enjoy the people up at the courthouse. I enjoyed, helping people out and doing what I could. But I think this way I'm going to be able to help the younger officers. I don't want to say newer, but they're just younger, and the different generations, and kind of old school, and go back to talking to people and doing this, and maybe move them to becoming better at what they do.
Now, you were a patrol sergeant before becoming police prosecutor.
Correct.
How do you foresee your role now, as opposed to as it was then, as with the interjection of the 8-year period as police prosecutor?
I'm that much better. I'm that much better at writing reports. I mean, it's like anything else. The longer you do it, I think the better you get. Knowing what needs to go in there, because as a patrol supervisor, you're on the same line with certain guys, which basically meant I worked with the same guys on my rotation. As a police prosecutor, you saw everyone's reports. You saw how other officers testified up at court. You saw other reports that other officers did from different departments, and how is yours related. So I can bring that now to the new officers I work with, and like I said, mold them into that much better than, not, and they're good, but I mean, just no one likes to make, no one wants to make a mistake.
Sure.
You want to take pride in what you do, and for the most part we do, and they just need to move more in that direction.
Well, certainly 20 years of experience is nothing to sneeze at, and adding in what's expected from you at the court stage, I think really informs, I guess, a well-rounded police officer in terms of what you're able to do. Now, training to become a police prosecutor, is there some sort of training program that's involved?
They have the DA office courses, and I've been to a couple. They're just one day just to kind of go over, but like I said, once again, the police prosecutor in Westford is what I can speak to. Is I had a couple of great guys to help me with. Was Eddie Cassett, who's retired, Victor Neal, who's now captain in charge of administration, who I followed and were able to show me. it's a lot more detail oriented. You have to be, and that Sergeant Martian is extremely detail oriented.
Yeah.
So it's a lot more paperwork. Like, I'm really enjoying now being out on the road, being in the front lines as opposed to seeing everything after. Because I tell the officers, I go, it's easy for me to sit back on a Monday morning with a cup of coffee and go over but oh, that should have been a little different, or maybe we should have done this. Why didn't we do that? I'm not there. I don't have a million things going on and trying to keep track of everything. But as far as training, a lot of it was on the job, and like anything else, a couple of times I did stick my foot in my mouth and make some mistakes, and I learned very quickly how to fix those in the future.
Mistakes are definitely a learning opportunity. Okay, great. As far as training of other officers, would you as a police prosecutor get involved in that?
I'd say no, for the most part they wouldn't. I mean, you tell them obviously, you know, what to expect. You know, when you go to court, this is where you sit, this is where you report to the DA, these are probably the questions you're going to be asked. But just basically, I tell them to tell the truth. You go up there, tell the truth. If you don't know, you don't know. If that's what happened, that's what happened.
So an officer is trained in the police academy as far as drafting a police report. They're trained in the police academy as far as testifying, as far as detection of OUI or other on-the-road issues. So you as police prosecutor, as far as taking that training forward, there's no formal training session, but there is that day-to-day dealing with the police reports and kind of molding things the way you take them to be molded, correct?
Correct. And like I said, I can relate back when I first started riding around with my field training officers, which is what these officers do, is they're going to take some things that this officer does that they like, and they're going to take some things that this officer does that they like, and they're going to mold it in their own style. And as long as that is the mainstream of everything, and they're not, you know, like I said, once again, we're very lucky we don't have officers that, you know, are, I don't know how to put it, they're very intelligent, they're trained well, the chief makes sure we have the best of everything, and they go forward and they go out and do a great job every day, and it's really not hard to just every now and then say, you might want to change this, you may want, you know, because they forget things. Like I said, they're there in the heat of the moment, and sitting back like anything else, I tell them you have 30 seconds to make a decision, whereas, you know, attorneys have 3 to 6 months to unravel your decision with all the case law they know.
Well, all right. As now the patrol supervisor, or when you were acting as the police prosecutor, were there aspects of the patrol that you had missed?
There were. I took every now and then, I'd fill in for the officers, the sergeants when they needed some time off, but I missed the daily interaction with people. I missed, you know, being there, like I said, seeing it firsthand. And I don't want to say that as a police prosecutor I wasn't a police officer, but it was more sitting behind a desk and, you know, doing the administrative functions, which was great, but after 8 years, you know, need a little bit of a break, and you get out there and you want to get back to, you know, this is what I love to do. I've always wanted to do this, so I get out to do it again, and so far, you know, 2.5 weeks in, everything's going great. Little adjustment to the schedule, but everything's going great.
Sure. Now, as a police prosecutor, do you have any interactions? Now, you were the police prosecutor in Westford. Do you have interactions with other police prosecutors in other towns?
Sure, all the time. We all talk. Part of it, I was on a domestic high-risk response team, so we talk to them, and we go and we'd meet with the DAs to discuss just, you know, how they were going to do things. Different DAs, like different lawyers, want different things. You know, certain DAs I dealt with wanted 1 million items of discovery, where others were like, no, that'll work. We'll see how it goes from there, and we'll work it. And now you know, up in air, I guess Judge Pearson is looking for the booking videos long before the ink on the CDs dry.
Yeah, that may be my fault. Sorry about that.
That's okay.
Well, as I said, I've always found your approach to the court system to be fantastic. You've been helpful. You've been straightforward. You've been, I think, certainly a friend of the court, friend of the bar. You'll certainly be missed in court. I hope not to see you around the streets of Westford, but you will definitely be missed in the courts.
Well, thank you very much.
Oh.
I hope to make some guest appearances up there.
We will. I'm sure we will see you there, and it'll be good to see you. But that concludes our presentation of legalese in tonight's program. I'll ask you to continue to watch our program. I think we try every month to come out with new topics that we feel would be of interest to the local community. And it's not just attorneys, but also police and other personnel that are associated with the legal profession. I would suggest that any legal information that you do hear, receive in the course of any of our presentations, that they not be taken as advice. This is a show of general information. But I would encourage people that do have specific legal questions to take those questions to members of the local bar. That's what they're there for. They're trained in the area. I thank you for watching tonight, and Bill, I particularly thank you for your years of service and for appearing here tonight.
Thanks for having me, Chris.
Thank you. And with that, that's the end of our program. Thank you.